When they all saw him, they worshipped, but they doubted. Can you imagine? These men who lived with the Lord for 3 years, saw every miracle, watched him die on the cross, and saw that same person raised from the dead, who ate with him after his resurrection, who were taught by him for weeks. They see him as he's about to ascend to his Father, and what do they have in their hearts? Doubt. We can all now breathe a collective sigh of relief. Okay, I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one who, in spite of how good the Lord has been to me, still has questions, still finds it hard to believe sometimes. We're there with the church, with these heroic apostles, and we receive the same treatment that they did. When they doubted, what did Jesus say? How dare you doubt? Go far from me and never see me again. No. He approached them and said to them, all power in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. You see, he believes in us more than we believe in him sometimes. He has fewer doubts about us than we have about him. And he gives us the power of his Spirit to be able to ask our questions in faith, and to let doubt actually become the first step of deeper faith. He gives us the power to not only have a firm belief ourselves, but then to be able to proclaim that belief in a way that is convincing, in a way that is compassionate, in a way that can actually bring people to the God for whom their hearts ache. So today's a good question, a good day to ask ourselves, what is it that I actually doubt? Am I doubting God in his existence? I think sometimes when we called out to him and he didn't answer in the way that we wanted, that might be the doubt that comes in. Are you even there? But perhaps we're doubting his power because we see that the evil forces of the world seem to be winning. I don't know if you've watched the news in the last, forever. It does not seem like we're on the winning side of the battle. But that's because we're seeing this tiny sliver. We're seeing our small culture wars. And yes, they are important. We have to be in the battle for the side of justice and truth and protecting the most vulnerable among us. But the great battle of all time, that's already been won. We are, in fact, on the victorious side of the war, even if it feels like we are on the losing side of this current battle. So maybe we doubt not his existence, but his power. We think, God, I just wish that you could steamroll over everyone's free will. And I wish that you can make such a world where everybody just does the right thing. And yes, I'll relinquish my freedom for that to be the case. But we don't really want that, do we? We don't want a God who tramples over our freedom, because as he takes away from everyone the capacity to sin, he also takes away the capacity to freely choose and love. And that gets us to the third thing we might doubt. Maybe we have no doubts in our minds that he exists. Maybe we have no doubts in our minds that he is powerful, and so we doubt whether he's loving, whether he cares. Maybe he's just this impersonal God who threw the universe into being and then looked the other way. And to all of these doubts, the Lord has a beautiful response. First, for his existence, he gives us a mind capable of reaching the necessary conclusion of a first cause for all that exists, of an unmoved mover that set everything in motion, of some ground of being that sustains all that is, of a personal God that can be the origin of our personalities. So we know that we can know even without revelation that he exists. We can be in awe of his power and his glory just by looking at creation all around us, but then looking within and saying, I have an intellect and a will. I have freedom, and I can think these deep thoughts. The intricacy of who we are and where we live shows us the power and the grandeur of God. But what shows us his love? Well, he's been incredibly patient with humanity, hasn't he? So we might say too patient. Like, God, if you had a time to choose for the second coming and the final reckoning, a few years ago would have been a great time. But he's so patient. And so he patiently guided his people Israel for generations. He worked with an individual, and then a family, and then a tribe, and then a nation. And then he finally came in person. And he said, if you ever doubt my love, see how I prepared and set the stage for this. See how I love you more than I love myself. And you may say, I want you to love me in such a way that you take away any of my suffering and any of my pain. And he says, instead, I'll love you in the way that I enter into your suffering and your pain. I'm not just going to cancel out all of the difficulties that are the consequences of a broken world tainted by sin, meriting death. No, instead I'm going to enter into it and take the consequences of sin upon myself so that you can know my love. And when we doubt, whether it's his existence, his power, or his love, he has an answer through what our minds can get to by reason and what our hearts can get to through trusting faith in the Lord who has revealed himself as a loving God on the throne of the cross. But maybe that's not what we doubt. Maybe what we doubt is not God, but ourselves. Maybe my doubt is I have failed him so many times, I can't get too close because I'm just going to fail him again. So I'm going to have this kind of mediocre Christian life. I'm going to go to Mass and I will pray from time to time, but I'm not going to have intimacy with Jesus because I don't want to fail him again. I doubt my capacity to be holy. I doubt my capacity to understand him as he is, and so I'm just going to have a surface level relationship. And I'm going to treat my Catholicism like I do my sports fandom, right? And so it's like, I happen to like the Dallas Mavericks. Good time to like the Dallas Mavericks, by the way. And I have a certain loyalty to that team, but that doesn't go very deep. I just sort of identify myself with it. I might have a jersey or something like that, but it's not changing my life. I feel like that's the way we treat our Catholicism sometimes. Oh, I was born into a Catholic family, so that's what I am. But I mean, is there really a difference between the Catholics or the Protestants or the Jews or the Muslims, whatever? And we never go deeper because we either think I can't understand him well or I can't love him well. And that's why today is such a beautiful day, because he shows us how far he goes in giving us the capacity to understand him and love him, and the power to spread that understanding and that love. And it's all wrapped up in the glorious mystery of the Trinity. You see, we can just by reason know that there is a God. But he had to reveal himself to show us who that God is. And you may say, well, no, I want to be able just by reason to know everything about him. Well, good luck. Just by reason, you can't know anything about anybody. You can just by reason and observing another person know all of their external behaviors, but you know nothing of their interior state. We're mysteries unto ourselves, and sometimes we want God to be less mysterious than we are. And that's, I'm sorry to say this, absurd. We want God to be as easy to understand as a mathematical equation. How boring. Why not instead want a God who is an adventure? A God who you can spend not only your whole lifetime, but your whole eternity getting to know better and better and better. When we say God is a mystery, that's not a cop-out where we say, oh, you can't know anything about God. Instead, it's an invitation saying, you will never get to the bottom. You will get to know him better and better and better. But you have to let your doubts turn into questions. Because you can have two sorts of questions. One is the bad kind of doubt. The other is the kind of doubt that God can work with. The bad kind of doubt is the one that ends in a period. I don't get this, period, and I never will. The good kind of doubt ends with a question mark. I don't understand. Can you help me? This is my question. I want to know. It's not just this trump card of, well, I don't get how God can become man in Jesus Christ, so all of this is baloney. It's, I don't understand that. I wonder if some other people have had the same question. I'm going to look for some explanations of this. And you live in the most privileged age that any Catholics have ever had in terms of learning their faith. All you need is an internet connection and the ability to type in Catholic.com. It can't be easier than that. Catholic.com, Catholic Answers, has probably the answer to any weird question that you have. And so your doubts, when they turn into questions, can lead to faith. And you can start exploring this God, who is a mystery that we enter into by means of our questions and our curiosity. Yesterday, I celebrated a wedding. Beautiful young couple, just so in love with each other and with the Lord. And I think that can give us a little glimpse into what I'm talking about. If they let doubt be the driving force of their relationship, how long do you think their marriage is going to last? Not very long. Because you can see a person's external behaviors, and you can have some idea that they love you. But at the end of the day, you have to take them at their word when they say, I love you. The moment you let doubt in, they can give you the world. They can serve you in every possible way. They can give you all the signs of affection. But once you've let doubt become that cancer in your soul, that's not a questioning of, I want to know more, but more of a, I don't believe. The moment you let that in, it destroys everything. Because you start doubting every single action. You start thinking, oh no, they don't actually mean what they said, or oh, they're just acting that way so that they can get me vulnerable and hurt me again. Well, that's the way that we are with God so often. We let doubt be the controlling force, the driving force of our relationship instead of faith and trust. When we have that initial doubt, we don't let it be a question that we ask God, like, God, I don't understand this. Would you please help me? I believe that you can. Instead, it's, God, I don't believe that you'll help me, so I'm not going to ask this tough question, and I'm going to live my relationship with you at a superficial level. But what this couple did is they committed to each other saying, I don't understand you perfectly, but I want for the rest of my life to get to understand you more. What they did was they wedded themselves to a mystery wrapped in flesh. They said, I know something about you, and for the rest of my days, I'm going to be knowing more and more and more. And some of the things that I learn are going to be beautiful and wonderful, and I love them. Others are going to be a little terrifying and unpleasant. But I'm with you for all of it, because I'm committed. And that's the kind of commitment the Lord wants to elicit from us on this Trinity Sunday, where he has revealed himself to be Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Not this static monad in the sky, just this impersonal force that is leading us through the motion of the universe but doesn't really care about what we do. No. He's this eternal dynamic of selfless love. That the Father pours himself out for the Son, and the Son pours himself out for the Father, and that love between them is so strong that it is in fact the third person, the Holy Spirit. And this is eternally happening. So it's not that the Father was first, then the Son, then the Spirit, but all three are this eternal, beautiful reality that ends up being the blueprint of all creation. How interdependent it all is. How everything in creation in one way or another is reflecting the grandeur of the Trinity, and nothing more beautifully than the human family. Where you have one person pouring himself out in love for the other, and then her pouring herself out in love for him. And that love being so strong that there is a third person created. We're all living images of the triune God. And that space between Father, Son, and Spirit gives us an entry point. Because our eternal destiny is not just to look at God from a distance, but to enter into that dynamic of love. He says, if you, in your life here, learn how to give selflessly of yourself, to pour yourself out in love for another, you're learning how to be like me. You're learning how to feel comfortable in that eternal communion of love that is Father, Son, and Spirit. And what happens at every Mass is that the Trinity descends to catch us up into that dynamic of love and bring us to a higher place. What I'll be doing at the altar, at a certain point you'll see my hands go like this. I'll be calling down the Spirit to be sent from the Father so that the Son can be made present. And then that Son made present becomes an entry point for you. Because you receive Him. You're made one with Him, drawn up into this tight communion that should take with you, that should lift up to a higher plane your beliefs and your actions. That's why we are so strict about who can receive and who can't receive communion, because it's meant to be everything in me is in communion with God and the teachings He's revealed through His church. Yes, I do it imperfectly, but I strive to do it faithfully because I'm being caught up into the very life of the Trinity. I'm being made one with Jesus so that I can be filled with the Spirit and lifted up to the Father. Every Mass we get to do that. And today we celebrate it in a special way. Because the Lord doesn't want us to just have a distant relationship where we're drowning in a swamp of doubt, where we feel like we'll never know Him and never love Him adequately. No, He gives Himself to us so that we can enter into this relationship of letting doubt become questions. Questions that we trust have answers. So that we can enter into the mystery of who God is and come to know Him more and more. And then enter into exploring that beautiful mystery of the Trinity for all of eternity in heaven.